That's all A-zone. Gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Talking Neck Gator. Today we're going over my EDC, and not Electric Dance Carnival, but my everyday carry. I'm your host, Ben Dover. Thanks for tuning in to 762 AKM Radio. We just finished up a commercial break. We're back on the topic of administrative results. Now, the controversy surrounding this, they just changed their name from Executive Outcomes to Administrative Results. Still sounds like an office supply co. Right now we have some callers on the line. Go ahead, caller number 1. Alright, so keep in mind, hey, I'm no high-speed guy. This is just my personal EDC, a little bit of the thought process behind it, where I'm coming from, and a lot of this is, of course, subject to change. So, diving into an EDC and the thought process behind it, right? First and foremost, I have a Kershaw knife right here. So this is, I don't know which model this is. It has sentimental value to me. It says I think the G&G Hawk design. So, a lot of function behind this knife. It's actually a pretty stellar knife. So, if you never saw my Stin video, I talked briefly in there about how my father passed away. And one of the knives my siblings and I bought for him was, as a gift throughout the years, was one of this knife. So I've been carrying in honor of him, and it's just a very functional knife, and it helps you be a good man because as dudes, one of your functions is to be a tool. So as dudes, one of your functions is to be useful. So you want to have the ability to handle problems that arise, and if one of those problems is unscrewing something, cutting something, popping over a bottle of beer with the boys, then you can do that, right? So it's just nice to be able to make yourself more functional, and a knife does that, right? I often see, you know, if you ever pop onto Reddit, which I never know why you would, but I remember I saw a comment one time and it said, I carry a knife, I don't really carry a gun because I never had to shoot open a box or something like that. And I was like, yeah, you never had someone try to kill you either, so. This thought process, right? There's people that think certain ways, and it's understandable, but we're trying to get them to think the proper way. But you can do whatever you want. It's a free country. Truck keys to my vehicle, nothing really too crazy. And then wallet. So this is a Magpul Wallet, right? Pretty low profile, pretty streamlined. I'm not a big fancy. I hate fat wallets because if you're sitting for a while, it will mess with your spine. It's not good for you. Keeping the theme of the channel with the heavy gun content, we'll go over my personal pistol setup. So the nice thing about Arizona is it's a constitutional carry state, so you don't have to have a CCW to carry in the state of Arizona. If you shoot someone, it may help out when you have to go to court. So just things to consider, because there's a big legal back aspect to getting into self-defense shooting, right? So we can maybe cover that briefly later down the video. But the holster is a HSP Incog. I've had this holster for years now. When I had my red dot on here, I did a real modified red dot cut. I don't know if it's picking up in camera or not. My camera guy yells at me about having stuff in focus. Hey! So did a little quick MOS red dot cut on there so it was compatible with a Glock 19 with a RMR cut. Rounds I'm using the Hornady critical duty rounds in there. I always keep a round in the chamber because if you don't keep a round in the chamber, then hey, where's your weapon mounted light, by the way? So usually I don't rock a weapon mounted light in my Glock 19. One of the reasons why is just more so considerations of what I'm doing throughout the day. If I'm gonna be doing stuff and I know I'm gonna be out and about at night, I may still not even have a weapon light. Now, one of the reasons for that is because I usually have my mod light. Usually, most of the time now, I usually have my mod light OKW head with the handheld configuration and the theorem ring. We'll come back to this guy in a second. There's a thought process behind it. We'll dive into it after all this litany of gear stuff. But, I mean, worst case is I can always throw a light on there. I mean, the signature of this holster with no light is pretty small compared to the cameraman's Glock 17 setup with a Surefire X300 and a in-point acro, which this is a pretty stellar bomb-proof setup, and I wouldn't mind rocking this. This holster is actually pretty comfy. You put it in my pants. It's kind of weird, but whatever. I'll say it on camera. And it actually is pretty comfy, so that was surprising. He had a little Velcro over here, maybe for comfort is my guess. But the outside of the Incog has like a weird almost felt texture.
That's what rubs me balls.
It smells kind of like it too. He's a weird little ginger, he has no soul. I'll probably forget something that I wanted to say about the Glock 19, but we'll come back to it. This is a inside the waistband knife that I carry. I don't know what your laws where you live. I know maybe some states don't allow that, but that's because they're not freedom-loving states. And in Arizona, there's like no rules, so you can rock a inside the waistband knife. This is a tour knife. I think they did a run with OAF. I've always been a fan of this reverse Tonto design blade, so we snagged it. It was kind of expensive, but whatever. I hate money anyway, but it was actually, I think I got it before I started the YouTube channel, so I've had it for a while now. It's a weird thing to still carry a knife, because it's like, I'm not trying to get into knife fights, but sometimes you don't want people to know you have a knife. There's a weird nuance. Gun guys are weird like that, so whatever. This is a discreet carry concepts clip. Clips on pretty nice, and it good retention, very low profile. I wanted to maybe swap out my HSP clip with maybe a discreet carry concept clip, just because how much lower profile they are. There's actually a pretty big difference. So it's just comfort knowing that you're gonna be printing that much less. I already don't really print with my Incog, so it's not too much of a worry. Now, one of the bread and butters of my carry, and I believe everyone should have to some capacity, a white light. Now I took it one step further and made it more so a defensive, offensive white light, right? So camera guy's pulling stuff out of his pants right now to also throw in there for his EDC. He's got his Surefire, little handheld Surefire light. He doesn't have a clip for his. Do you lose yours in your pocket a lot?
It's broken 5 times.
You've broken your clip 5 times.
No.
I have the Theorem clip on mine. Now, it's not, I mean, in theory you could punch someone, but the thought process with running a defensive light, right? Keep in mind, all right, we're about to do some stuff that may be out of the wheelhouse, because I'm no high-speed guy. We're gonna talk about my thought processes, right? So it's a little disclaimer. So, mod light with an OKW head. Now the OKW head, if you don't know what that is, first off, if you don't know what mod light is, mod light's this stellar, wicked company that just came out not too long ago. They're making handheld lights, weapon-mounted lights, and at first I wasn't a believer. But then after getting this light and running it at nighttime, oh my God, it changed my whole world, and they are f***ing awesome. So, big shout out. They didn't pay me to do that. I literally bought this with my own money because I saw them in use and I was like, yeah, I'm sold. So, only downside is this is not the dual fuel head, so this runs off of their 18650 battery. These batteries are rechargeable, so you can recharge your batteries and keep them topped off, and I bought a set of batteries to use. So I bought the handheld configuration because my thought process was, now these flashlights are expensive, but there's a thought process behind this. On one of my guns, I have a Surefire dual fuel mount. Now what this means is that Surefire can take both CR123s or rechargeable batteries. In this case, I can take my mod light head and throw it on the Surefire head in case I wanted to run a dedicated distance white light. But in the reverse, I can keep my mod light on the handheld mod light body. How do you utilize a defensive weapon light? Well, so breaking it down, you're biomechanic. So if you present your weapon light and someone's being shady, you then just escalated the use of force. Legally, you have to think about stuff on the legal back end. You can't just, okay, I'm gonna carry a gun willy-nilly, and then if things go bad, I'll just shoot someone. It's like, in theory, yes, that can happen, but it's going to play out not how you want it to. You have to think of things responsibly because you will be held accountable in court. Unless you're just a criminal, then whatever, you can do what you want. So, crime. If you present your handgun and you use your white light to identify someone and you determine, oh, it's just your deaf grandma, well then you just pointed a loaded weapon at someone that didn't need to be pointed at. Now the thought process is, this is a white light. So if you're walking in a parking lot with your wife or your girlfriend or your lover, I don't know, this is future, and you present your defensive light, you're not escalating force, you're just identifying a potential threat or someone, you know what I mean? And if they are a bad guy, if their intentions are nefarious, at nighttime, their OODA loop is going to be so messed up with you splashing them with a powerful, high lumen, high candela light, right? They're going to rearrange, they're going to throw them off because typically bad guys don't go after hard targets. They're going after soft targets. So if they think that you're a soft target and then all of a sudden you hit them with a white light and it brings a whole bunch of attention to them, then that's going to either correct their behavior and they're either going to bounce or you're going to realize they're not a threat. So it's a win-win. And you never presented a firearm. You never escalated the use of force. So it's going to play out well. You're not going to have to do a bunch of stuff. But it also brings a lot of stuff to light. So if you present that white light and you do beam them, right, so, and then they still keep coming at you and they look hostile, then maybe you can move to the escalation of force, and especially if they present a weapon. But I guess that's an iPhone. I don't know. I can't remember which model it is, but Should have covered that real quick at the beginning, but whatever. Life pro tip. So one thing you should consider carrying, and I usually like to have on me, is maybe a set of Bluetooth headphones. One of the reasons why is that in the event of an emergency, say an accident, or you need to notify law enforcement, which is probably both the same thing, but whatever reason why, so say you want to access emergency communication, having the Bluetooth headphones in where you're able to talk to them and keep your hands free, that's kind of essentially the thought process. Because if you have to use your phone and say you have to manipulate a weapon or manipulate a light or trying to help someone in a medical situation, it takes one of your hands out of utilization. So things to maybe, I don't know, if you've learned that, I definitely, if you ever rolled onto an accident and you want to help those people out, it definitely helps to have, say, a Bluetooth headset in to where you can say, hey, yeah, I'm helping these guys out, they're over here, they're in this lane. I like to think I'm semi-crazy, but not that crazy. The reason is if I'm wearing jeans and you're going to the range, I like to have an eye vac on me. If I'm out and about, I like to have some level of bleeding stoppage, so a tourniquet to some capacity, right? So I have a Riker nylon gear eye vac right here, and this holds the tourniquet, little baby shears, and then chest seal and some gauze. So the thought process is just you're stopping bleeding, right? Of course, if I'm wearing shorts, then I'm not gonna be wearing an ankle eye vac because that's just what turbo virgins do. So that's it's all your personal prerogative. Real quick, we'll show off cameraman's Glock 17. It's a nice little Jaeger Works Glock. So I'm pretty jealous. I think it looks pretty good. Well, you can flex it. You want to flex it? You want to go shoot it? So the watch is a Garmin Phoenix 5X. I like it. Smarter than I am. It's not even that smart. So pretty sick. Big key component about carrying stuff every day is the load bearing aspect. And the load bearing aspect doesn't mean it's a fancy way of saying your belt. So recently I was reached out to by Cigar Gear. I think he's out in Florida. He reached out to me, sent me some belts, sent me some products, and been really digging them. So you gotta understand the relationship. I'm not trying to be a total shill, but I do like them. I mean, of course, there are plenty of other belts out there you can utilize and snag. The thought process behind a belt, typically the train of thought for a while now has been, you want the belt to be able to support itself with its own spine. So you don't want like a droopy, really bad droopy belt, because then a lot of that weight's gonna be really uncomfortable, and you're gonna have a bad time. So it's been pretty good, I don't know, I'm trying to think of all these big words for it, but belt good, so hasn't failed me too bad. I mean, comfort is an aspect of everyday carrying, but I mean, it's also like, would you rather be comfy or would you rather be safe? And it's like, well, these are things you have to weigh. So if you want to be really comfortable, you may not have a full-size fighting Glock 17 with an aim-point acro and a Surefire X300, right? I mean, it's not the comfiest setup as, say, opposed to a Glock 43 or an M&P Shield. I mean, we're just using Glock because we are Glock guys, and there are other handguns out there, of course, you can use that'll work just fine, right? But
I wore it on a plane for 3 hours.
Really? You wore this on a plane for 3 hours? What kind of plane was taking you on with a Glock 17?
Charter.
Ah, there you go.
No one knew about it though because I was going to California.
That's pretty gangster. So yeah, if you were to rock a full-size Glock 17 in your pants with a Surefire X300 and RMR, or correction, aim-point acro, being technical, but an RMR as well, then hey, go for it. It's your life if you want to do that. Because if you do get into a gunfight and a self-defense shooting, then you're going to have every advantage given to you. I mean, I'm rocking a Glock 19 with no weapon light and no optic of any kind. This is my prerogative, right? So I train with it and utilize it and kind of know the ins and outs and its limitations as well as my limitations. And we're always trying to push your skill set and make you better. A Glock 43, of course, can still easily stop a threat. It's just you're losing capacity, kind of. I mean, if they have the Glock 43X with shield and armor mag, 15 rounds, pretty sick, looking into it. But you're losing capacity, losing capability, right? So, I mean, it's hard to compare to a full-size, say Glock 34 or Glock 17, full-size handgun range of defense, you know what I mean? But comfort versus concealability versus all these things, how you weigh it, Being in Arizona, we quickly learn when it starts to get really hot, those big guns start to really suck. And if you're out and about for a while, just doing anything, you're gonna start hating your life. It just gets really hot, right? But that's the price you pay for not dying in case anyone tries to kill you. So, small price to pay. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. The comments are an excellent sacrifice to the algorithm gods. If you want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, then go ahead, buy a t-shirt, helps me out, helps the channel out. There's a plan up ahead. Hopefully this audio is still good. I give early access to videos in the Patreon, as well as we do giveaways, stuff like that. Nothing too high threat, but I'm looking to amp up the Patreon. It's a great way to support the channel. As always, stay beautiful, stay frosty, and I will see you all on the flip.